Again, this is the Finance Committee meeting, public meeting that we put together. This is more info gathering where we are working with Jeff to better inform council in general, but me in particular, Tony Pinter. And we have Tommy Grant with us, who's also part of the Finance Committee, and obviously Jeffrey Wilczek. So again, Jeff, just thanks for meeting with us. This is not a crazy fact-finding mission type thing. This has more to do with understanding the facts and just getting us prepared for any questions that may pop up. I created a finance meeting agenda, obviously with the wrong time, and but with that being said, we do have some general topics to go over, and I saw you prepared some really good stuff. I want to say in general, I feel like I'm so formal, sorry. In general, I mean, looking over everything, it looks great. I think for me, it's just like making sure I understand what's going on. You saw a few of the questions on here where, you know, basically, you know, like, okay, what's going on with this stuff? So
governmental accounting is wonderful and wacky.
Wacky, yes, I remember that. And but with that being said, to better help us, you know, help you really, is kind of my secondary goal. Because I think what ends up happening is we get lost in the sauce. Well, I do at least, and don't want to do that in the meetings especially. But this is good.
Yes.
Tommy, did you want to add anything before we get started?
So, starting with the first thing that was on your topics,
sure.
okay? TIF funding. I actually pulled a definition out to be more precise, okay?
Nice, yeah.
Because I wouldn't have said everything that's on here. But the gist of the TIF financing is to allow for economic development, redevelopment, infrastructure improvements, so on, okay? And it's usually within a defined area, and generally, or what basically happens is the property taxes are essentially redirected. They become referred to as pilot payments, payment in lieu of taxes.
Gotcha.
Okay? And those dollars either involve the school district or they don't. In this case, the school district is left out of this, so they get their money. Unfortunately, there's a handful of county levies that are pulling dollars off the TIF that I have some concerns about because of how much it's gone up.
Yeah.
So, but again, those dollars come into us, gets recorded into a separate fund. Right now, they're being used to pay debt. The bonds that we issued, just shy of $8 million. And I gave you the cover sheet on the bond, which is the source and use of funds statement. $7.9 million worth of bonds were issued. We paid off MI for their infrastructure improvements. Going way back to approximately 2016, those infrastructure improvements were estimated to be about $4 million.
Okay.
So over a period of time, they received dollars from us that were collected under the TIF.
Yeah.
And when we issued the bonds, there was $2.4 million, almost $2.5 million to be paid off to MI. Okay. And then the rest of the proceeds came back to us. They were designated for a few different projects. The first one was the municipal building that we're in. The second one was to take care of the lakes. A little bit with an amphitheater, a maintenance building, potentially pathways if there was anything left.
Yeah.
Which I can tell you is not going to happen.
Yeah.
There's nothing, that's not going to be left. Okay. This building was significantly more than initially estimated.
Yeah.
And, well, neither of you were on council at the time, but I think the first round of bids that came in had to be rejected because they were so high. So they had to redo it, and I believe on the third try, it finally got accepted.
Gotcha.
3 bids for
3 rounds. They were rejected the first 2 times because they were too high.
When did those bids come in, Jeff? I'm just curious.
22.
22.
Oh, for this building?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was.
Yeah. What was originally somewhere around roughly $2 million became 3.5.
Right.
by the time we get done with a few other things, we've got $4 million in this building.
Yeah,
Not included in the building cost
yeah.
was furnishings.
Okay. Yeah.
So there was another $100,000, easy. Actually, it's a little bit more. And the network equipment was not included, so there was another $50,000.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah, the good side is the interest earnings that were made on the bond proceeds that were invested helped cover all that.
Sure.
And then some.
That's
I mean, I think the first year I had the bond proceeds, I was in excess of $300,000 in interest earnings. Now, that was all funds, not just the bond proceeds.
So the community, only we're asking about the community building again, because just to get a knowledge base, right? Did we, how do I put this? Do we feel pressure to get that done this building done as soon as possible? Do you think it was
Well,
pushed
if
through?
anything, it took forever to get the final approval
Final approval from,
to go forward and build it,
from who?
council.
Gotcha. Because I know part of that story, but I don't know the whole story.
Yeah. Now, that said, too, we were coming out of COVID.
Yeah.
And prices on everything just went crazy.
Yeah.
Okay? I mean, I look at some of the road projects that were estimated back in 22 and 23, and we're double that now. So it's crazy.
Yeah.
So the other,
Which is another reason why I thank you for having this meeting, because I think there's gonna be some certain challenges over the next 3, 4, 5 years. Right?
we'll get to those. The other document I gave you, the summary of key provisions, it goes with TIF.
Yeah.
It just highlights some things that gives you a little bit more history to go with it. Okay?
Yep. No, this is good.
So, your next topic, I don't know how to answer that one. Engineering presentation and preparation?
Maybe I can reword it for us. Bear with me here. Finance. Okay. Oh yeah, so that was a general high level. He presented 15 to 20 projects, meaning Mike Flickinger.
Task orders.
Task orders.
Yes.
And, you know, I was just, well, first of all, I was kind of overwhelmed because it's just like, you know, but I mean, from your perspective, this is your perspective, not necessarily his. How do you handle those and actually help the village prioritize those, I guess, because I heard certain things. You also mentioned TIF money related to the lakes.
Yeah.
Which is scary. And then, but then, you know, from Mike's perspective, you know, he had certain opinions on the lakes in particular, but how do you prioritize those things? How does that work in kind of a larger scale?
Okay. I do have conversations with Mike frequently. Okay. And I know what he's doing, and the task orders help identify what he's working on. Mm-hmm. They're all tied to a purchase order so we can keep track of it all. Okay. In looking at the projects that are out there and what has to be done, when it comes to the road projects, there was a pavement condition assessment done a few years ago.
I saw, yeah.
And we work off of that. We look at the worst ones.
Yeah.
And
So
that
like-
kind of drives the priority.
So like that Valley View example was one
Yes.
of the worst, right? Yeah.
And Valley View, to be honest with you, we kind of pushed it back a little bit on purpose, just
Okay.
because we were trying to figure out a few things. At one point, we thought the pool improvements were going to go faster than what it's taking place.
Mm-hmm,
So now it's at a point where Valley View's got to get done. So it's needs to be done before the pool stuff starts.
Gotcha.
And we got a timing issue trying to work that out. So right now, Valley View will probably potentially go out to bid January with the work being done before the pool opens at the end of May.
Gotcha.
Okay? Which I'll come to that project a little bit
Yeah, we talked
in a moment, okay? I'm sorry, I need to back up a minute.
You're good.
There's a couple of things that go with the TIF yet, okay? And you've got a set of,
And you say Valley View, do you mean Valley Road for the pool?
yes, I'm sorry.
I said Valley. I said Valley View. I thought it's Valley Road.
Valley. So I gave you a fund summary and a few sheets to go with it. There are two funds still tied to the TIF. One is the construction fund, which holds the bond proceeds. And you asked for where it stands right now.
Yep.
There's currently $1,600,000 in the fund.
Yep.
And there's $840,000 in purchase orders or encumbrances out there relating to work that is taking place.
Gotcha.
That does include the maintenance building. Okay? The next page on that is the revenue status, and you'll see the only revenue going to the fund is interest.
Interest, yeah.
So far this year, and this is through May, we've earned $25,000 on the $1.6 million sitting there, okay?
And you budgeted 50, so.
Yeah, I will easily hit the 50.
Yeah.
Unless we spend the money faster than I anticipate. Okay? Appropriation status is essentially the expenditure side of things. So you can see how the dollars are,
Should match here. Should match that number. Yep, gotcha.
at least what's appropriated, what's encumbered, and what's been spent. Okay? So, I refer to the lakes as the lake restoration. A while back, we had potential for some money there, and the word dredging was not good, so restoration became the key word, okay?
Yeah.
Right now, it's so far out in left field as far as the cost.
Yeah.
It's not gonna happen. And we have two larger concerns: the erosion just beyond the dam.
Yep.
And the erosion down by the tunnel.
Yeah.
Along the pathway that has to get fixed.
Yep.
More
So
than
he
likely.
brought that up, and I thought that was interesting, so, and I don't want to dwell on it, but, so, is it fair to say, Mike, again, just to put it on, not on the record, but just to talk about it, Mike was wanting to push kind of the idea of the lakes to the past, is that a fair?
That was based on a conversation the two of us had, yes. Because some of the money that was potentially available for the lakes is not there anymore.
Gotcha.
Okay, you got a change with the president and so on in DC.
Sure.
Things have changed.
Yep.
So we're stuck waiting to see what, if any, kind of money can come along again. And chances are, if dollars do come along, it's gonna be a pieces parts thing again. In the long run, it costs more, but it's not our pocket. Okay? In talking with Mike, it will be very expensive to fix the erosion beyond the dam and downstream.
Even
So-
under that bridge?
Yes.
Okay.
You got a problem getting equipment down there, first of all. And it's not exactly easy to work in some of those places down there. So chances are what is left, or the unencumbered balance, could get consumed or very close to it with just fixing the erosion.
Okay.
And that becomes more of a priority, to be honest
Right,
with
and I don't want to debate it in here, we could debate it at some future meeting. How do we get consensus on something like that? Because I understand where Mike's coming from, I would understand where you're coming from for sure. I think that when looking at it, I have a different opinion, but I'm not an expert, obviously, so
Yeah.
that doesn't matter. But there needs to be discussions, because this money, we don't have to debate it here, of course, but I'm just thinking, I just want to know, how does that process work? I mean, is that part of what we do? Council, is voting on stuff like that, or?
Maybe the best way for it to work is finance committee conveys to the rest of council the priority that has to go with this, the fact that it's got to get done.
Gotcha.
And make the recommendation so that the rest of them go along.
Got it, yeah.
If we game plan the other way of saying, hey, we just rather a local contractor throw their best hand at it, and maybe it's minor in cost and whatever they think, perhaps we're kicking a can down the road, but what happens if we have a $900,000 balance, or what, 800 in the TIF fund? Not forever, but we just continue to sit on it and we're not taking action.
Well, that poses a problem because we're beyond the 36 months we were supposed to have spent it. And now we run into arbitrage or potential arbitrage issues where whatever interest earnings we make
Yeah.
will get refunded to the IRS.
So, but right now, it's 50,000 budgeted this year, correct, the interest, so.
Yeah.
I mean,
The,
yeah,
the 36 months ended May
Yeah.
this year.
so we're right on it, yeah.
And what happens if we say, you know what, we don't wanna spend that money? Would that be silly? Is that irresponsible? I mean,
Well, we
All
want.
of the above.
Would you agree we want to spend it? It's just, for $50,000 in interest, I mean, how does that work? Can we just
Well-
neglect the interest or just, not neglect it, can we rescind the interest or however that works?
The interest would be paid to the IRS that is
Right.
earned, okay? I have a possible way of sidestepping that.
Okay,
And I'm working with our investment advisor to go down that path.
good, yeah,
I don't like giving money to the IRS,
fair.
okay? I don't think any of us do.
yeah.
But you don't want to be forced into, that's everything I hear, right? Is it fair to say we don't want to be forced into doing something? Like even this community building, is it fair to say could be an argument that we push this so hard here? And it's water in the bridge now, but no pun intended either. No, that's where I'm at. It's like, well, okay, I understand that if we don't spend this money, okay, we owe the interest. I get that. But we also don't want to say, well, heck, okay, we need to take the 1.6 or 800,000 and now we need to put it, or we need to go in the past right away, right now, like this fall. That's where I'm at.
It's,
There's an urgency to spend money that you don't really have a plan for, but you just need to throw it together like a path in an amphitheater.
well,
For 50, yeah. Well, okay.
there's a
You
need
wink,
to
and I-
spend the money sooner than later, okay? But again, following what you're saying, you want to make a wise decision on the use of it, okay? Redirecting the dollars that were trying to be used to dredge the lakes to restoring or correcting the erosion problem downstream is a smart move. If you don't, you got a tree that's going to come down and you're eating into somebody else's property, and that pathway under the tunnel is going to be gone,
That will be gone, yeah.
okay? So it's a necessity,
Yeah,
okay? We're still doing things with the lakes that are more preventative type things. Cleaning up the trees around the lakes,
That makes total sense.
pulling that back,
Totally makes sense.
eliminates a lot of the leaves and everything else that gets dumped in it. Over time, somehow, some way, something will get figured out as to how to correct this thing. I mean, when you really, all these things it collects storm drainage.
Right.
It runs into the lakes here and back out the other end.
Yeah.
The unfortunate side is there's a lot of debris and things that over time collects and
Yeah.
sets at the bottom and eliminates the amount of water these things can hold in a heavy rain.
Yeah.
So,
No, it makes sense. It's just,
Yeah.
it's crazy
No.
because ever since Tony Benedetti was on board here, council, I know he was talking about the lakes, because his son and my son and his son played football together and all that. So I was with them a lot, but anyway, but then to hear that it's like kind of moving away from it, it's just, I don't like wasting time. I mean,
but keep in mind, dredging the lakes and taking care of this, that discussion's been going on since late 90s.
Yeah, right, well, that's exactly.
So-
It's like, I'm like, I don't know. But no, I think going back to the presentation and stuff, so so you're talking to Mike pretty regularly, and then obviously, now how often does he present to council?
Not often.
It hasn't been that often lately.
Can we request him, I know they already request to give the presentation, in advance of any, but can we request, semi-annual evaluation of where we're at?
Yes, you can, and he will do it. You can almost do it quarterly. It depends upon what all's going on, okay? If there's a lot of things going on, you may want to do it quarterly.
Yeah.
If there's little activity and we're just in planning stages on things, maybe semi-annual, okay? But it's.
What do you feel?
At least right now, I think a quarterly would be good.
Do you feel like a lot's going on, or is it just my?
There's some big things going on that council needs to be aware of and make decisions on. Okay? So that's
Well,
what,
and one thing that Stacy had brought up to me, that, like, we should trust the engineers, like, because she was pointing out the sewers. And I'm, look, I'm all about that stuff. Like, look, I mean, if, like, for example, you say, $1 million needs to go to something we haven't, then, I mean, it's a no-brainer for me, because I think that it's a very important, the way you guys explained, or Mike explained the blowing out of the plastic and the thing, I think that was pretty sweet, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Into the sewer, I just.
yeah.
That's a new thing recently, so it's kind of cool.
Storm drainage, roads, sewers are the biggest thing right now. And they take the higher priority,
Yeah.
okay? And
Second biggest expenditure besides the police force,
yeah,
yeah.
so.
And
Securing
with,
persons.
TIF money is already designated to the things you mentioned. Is that fair? Okay.
Because there's guardrails on what we can use it for, correct?
Yes,
And that was pathways, lake, and community building and
has
maintenance
to be
building
infrastructure improvements within the TIF area.
within the TIF area.
That's the general of it, okay?
Yeah,
This building was somehow tied into it all, okay? A
caveat.
pathways
Yeah,
was thrown in there.
sure.
Like,
There's potentially something else, but I'm not bringing that one up.
Sounds good.
Because not a good topic.
no, you're good.
The other set of things, the one that says
Unencumbered?
MP TIF tax equivalent fund.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the fund that receives the current pilot payments
Okay.
and makes the debt payments,
Okay.
Gotcha.
okay? There is still an outstanding advance from the general fund to this fund that occurred back in '22 because the timing of issuing the bonds and looking at the revenue, they counted full settlement or 2 settlements for the year when there was only 1 settlement left. So we ended up short on our ability to meet the first debt service payment, resulting in a $230,000 advance from general fund. Okay? It's getting paid back slowly. There's still 150,000-ish to be paid back yet. That I'm hoping between this year and next year I can get it done. Okay? It remains to be seen yet. Okay?
And that's pretty normal, I guess. Where, is that a fair statement? Where,
The current, what happened is not normal. That was just an oversight that everybody totally missed.
what is that oversight again?
The fact that there was only 1 settlement left to come in for the year, not 2. So that was basically half a year's revenue.
Right.
No, Jeff, I had brought this up, I mentioned it, because you're kind of talking about or at least I think you've mentioned that the payments going back to the TIF are not as high as anticipated to repay the loan. And because it's all I know and what I've thought about
Yeah.
was that when I looked at my taxes on the auditor and, 2 years ago they went down and I go, they're not supposed to go down. I didn't have a valuation change at all. Why did my property taxes decrease when my valuation didn't decrease?
Well, are you in the new section or
Yes,
not?
I'm in the new section.
Okay. Sometimes your reduction factors that come back into play
Yeah.
with property tax levies. Back a minute. With any levy, you have a full tax rate and then you have an effective rate.
Yeah.
The difference is the reduction factors that come back into play. They're determined by the state.
Yeah.
And the county implements them. And that takes into effect or into account inflation.
Okay,
Voted property tax levies is like fixed income.
yeah,
The only reason you would get an increase in a voted property tax levy is new construction,
okay,
okay? Otherwise, it's always going to generate the same dollars. So probably what happened is the reduction factors kick back in, looking at the village as a whole.
yeah.
Getting you a slight
After 2
reduction.
years, yeah.
Yes, okay.
And everybody else in the village as well, but, or not the village as a whole, but, because I think everybody else in not my section
Yeah.
went up.
Now, everybody saw increases in the fair value of the property,
Correct.
Yeah.
which again comes back into play with determining the effective rate of your levies.
And as those increase, will the payments to the TIF increase?
My understanding is no.
Okay.
Okay? The TIF itself was estimated to generate 750,000. I've not hit that yet. I'm in the low sevens.
Okay.
But again, the dollars taken from the TIF by the county levies has increased, and it has me concerned as to whether I'm going to get enough money constantly to meet my debt service payments.
Is there a game plan for that?
There's a few ways to look at it, and
Well, I know that, I worry that 20 years from now, you're no longer here, and we've got two pirates and a swashbuckler
it's.
going, arr, arr.
I've had a conversation with the county on this, and looking back at some things a second time, I'm wondering if I overreacted a little. But I'm still alarmed
Yeah.
with how it's going, and I don't have a good feeling on how to estimate where it's headed.
Sure.
Okay? What I did stumble on, going back through a little bit of the bond documents, that debt is payable solely from the TIF. It does not pledge any other revenues.
Okay. So if we're short,
If you're short, you're short. That's a problem, because technically that can put you in default on the debt. Now, common sense question is, do we really want to let a default situation occur?
yeah.
And I think the true answer is no, but that's going to result in conversation with bond counsel too, as to just, what are we gonna do?
Yeah. Help us, help you, help us, help you.
Yeah, so,
That's why I start to think, I'm like, okay, well, can we leverage that $900,000 in the balance to make up for the challenge of, I don't know.
yes, but those dollars may be gone by the time we really run
I
into
know.
a problem there, okay?
But I'd rather fix the problem than
Yes,
a
yes,
little erosion happen.
right. So, okay?
But that's just me. I'm just wondering.
No, it's, trust me, I have a concern
What keeps you
here.
up at night,
Okay.
you know?
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Moving on.
Yeah.
River Lake Road project, future planning.
Yeah.
Okay, so, take the legal sheets. Actually, there's,
It's okay, we can share.
You have it right there.
hold on, let's look at that sheet first. Both of you have that one. I
Which one is it? Which one you want?
want to look at that one first.
Oh, this one.
Okay?
That's fine.
So, this is part of the tax budget, so that the county can see what's taking place here and how we're utilizing our dollars.
This is the creative accounting to say the source of the funds to perform the repairs.
It's pretty factual right now.
Yeah.
Okay? So 25, 26, those projects, they're going to be started here and they'll finish next year.
Yeah.
Then we'll have projects next year that start in 26 and finish in 27.
So this is north, so this is all the far east side of
Yes,
Melhar.
Yeah. Far view to Route
Route 3.
Yep.
Okay? And as you look at that, you can see there's a lot of pieces, parts to this. I've got a lot of sources of funds coming into play with how this project gets done. Okay? Yes, we got awarded $1 million from OPWC, $600,000 loan and a $400,000 grant. The loan is going to be repaid from the street maintenance fund. to the tune of about $37,000 a year. Okay?
But that's only for a quarter of a mile road?
Yeah,
Gotcha, I'm learning.
it's expensive.
I know.
Yeah. That project initially, when Mike and I first started talking, we were $750,000.
And finance, I know I've talked to people that think, theory, and this is all theory, but a lot of the federal money that came into construction and kind of, I don't know if it's CHIPS Act per se, but it could be, lots of infrastructure related projects that really blasted the cost of.
There was at one time, there's a lot of money thrown out for shovel-ready projects. Nobody has shovel-ready projects sitting on the shelf.
Yeah.
In planning these things, roughly in the vicinity of 3 to 4 years out,
Yeah.
you are already committed to doing some of the studies you need and the engineering work. So really, you're going to commit to a project that's not going to start for 3 years because you've got your engineering and everything taking place. Heaven forbid if you got to buy right away for some of these projects and other things that come into play before you can actually start construction.
Yeah.
And you can look at some projects that are 4 and 5 and 6 years out, and okay, that's when you begin to assign your priorities as to how they're going to come back in. Because like I said, somewhere around 3 years out, you're committing dollars to it now.
Yeah. Dollars you estimated, you don't know the true cost, but when the true cost starts rolling in, then you have to.
Right, you'll learn your engineering cost. Okay?
Right.
So, this is something that I
So,
kind
so,
of
so
keep
if you
going.
don't mind me, just
Go ahead.
back to MLR though, I didn't look at I was asked by 5 people to look at the October, November meeting and just understanding. But I do want to ask this, so we have a grant there, we have a loan.
Yes.
Yeah, the grant's great, or good. And then, so obviously, we're paying $1 million
Yeah.
to do that section of road. Where was this on the priority list in regards to the roads? Was this pretty bad from a?
Yeah, so
Yes.
the erosion from the new section, erosion is not good, but the water runoff from the streets directed basically everything downhill towards that section of roadway. And I'm sorry if I
Go
spoke.
ahead, no, you're,
And it's begun to wear the crowns of the roads in even
Yeah, I saw
further.
that, yeah.
And it's only accelerated since, because I think that other sections of Minerva Lake Road and that were close to the same, but now that section is
they're
compounding.
all, the pavement condition is poor, if not very poor.
Yeah.
It changes depending upon where you're at.
Yeah.
So what drove that end was, as Tommy said, the runoff from stormwater,
Yeah.
for starters, plus you've got problems with the road.
I was at Buckingham's house
Yeah.
Sunday night, just briefly, and I didn't notice it was pretty bad.
Yeah, we can watch the
Yeah.
water run down both sides of the thing with there's no storm drain to help the water exit, it just goes towards Columbus.
Yeah.
And now we're adding that, which should greatly help it. It's gonna widen the road a little bit, apparently, and we're gonna add sidewalks to one side, because we voted on that, and everybody's.
And I'm pretty sure, the question seemed to have came up yesterday. It's probably a 5-foot wide sidewalk
Yeah,
That's what they said.
Okay.
concrete, correct,
and concrete.
yes.
And somewhere along the lines, there's 6-inch concrete sidewalks and somewhere 4.
Yeah.
That part I don't know. Okay, other than I've got the bill for it.
Yeah,
Or the estimated cost, I should say. So, yeah, I mean, it's all part of the project, and again, different pots of money to make up, come up with the 1.4 million. It's 1,000,003 something, almost 1,000,004, okay?
because Jeff, these are water line funds, storm sewer funds, these are money that we have and we've set aside for these projects.
And we get surcharge revenue off the utility bills.
Okay, so yeah, that's
Yes.
where that money gets directed, is the tax money from the
Yes.
sewer projects. So yeah,
It's very helpful, to be honest, okay? And over the last couple of years, we've transferred money out of general fund to storm sewer improvement, road improvements, or street improvement fund, so on.
Gotcha.
Got some money over in the pool improvement fund.
Yeah.
Okay? And recently, I created an equipment replacement fund and directed 3% of the income tax revenue to that fund.
Gotcha.
There is no specific list of equipment to be replaced. It's dollars that will accumulate so that you've got the capital resources to replace equipment as it needs to be done.
Yeah.
It's getting about $70,000, a little over $70,000 a year right now,
Wow, it's crazy.
so.
Yeah. No, and the only reason I asked that, guys, just so you know, is I just didn't want it to be a situation where we're like, oh, we need, we're getting this grant money, so we gotta do this. But it looks like it was damaged, it was needed to be fixed.
It's a pretty heavily traveled section of
Oh,
road.
yeah, 100%,
Yeah, so what's not addressed yet is forthcoming. There's a desire to have some kind of lighting on the intersection of Fairview?
Yep, Farview. and-
Farview, I'm sorry.
MLR, yeah.
Yeah, and River Lake. I don't know where it came from, but now there's talk about putting streetlights on River Lake Road, none of which is in the budget.
Yeah.
Okay? And it's more cost because
Wow.
streetlights get paid for out of general fund.
And obviously, there's no streetlights throughout the
Anywhere
county.
else.
I know, they don't exist.
I think the point of frustration, I think, Jeff, is I remember us bringing that up as something that we were hoping that would be brought up to engineering as a possible part of that project, and it never got brought up, and when it came back, we were like, what about that part? And they're like, wait.
Oh,
So, I think
Well,
that's,
it's an issue that the council has to decide.
Yeah.
But I think you're gonna find yourselves with a lot of residents saying no,
yeah.
Right, so why even mess with it?
okay? Lighting the intersection makes perfect sense,
No big.
okay? And I'm sure there's a few other ones around, within the village that need some attention too.
Yeah.
So it's,
The purpose of this one, obviously, thanks for going over the current project part of it, but what is the future part? Is there, have we
that's what I'm
talked?
getting to.
Yep, sorry.
Okay, so I just wanted to point this out.
Yeah.
This is what's going on, and that's what's proposed or gonna start in for next year.
Yep.
Okay? So that's in the tax budget, you can put that one aside now.
So the pool house, that bathhouse, I know the RFP was a question the other night, but I'm not even focusing on that as much as, that won't be done starting this year.
I'm not sure how this is gonna work, because I've heard some third, fourth hand feedback that I don't know how to respond to, other than I'll keep my mouth shut and let you guys figure it out, okay? I put together the RFP
I heard, yeah.
that outlines the work we want from an architect. And that architect is to design and handle the bid document, review the bids, and propose to council who gets the contract to build the bathhouse. We have a grant. The grant only covers the bathhouse. It does not cover anything else.
Right.
Okay? MKSK put together a pie in the sky plan, $6.5 million, and includes an event house out there.
Yeah.
That is not covered under the grant. The grant will not pay for it.
Yeah.
So we're stuck, but we gotta get a new bathhouse,
It's terrible.
okay? And potential cost on that one's just boggling my mind again. I can't
What are you
believe.
looking at the potential cost?
Well, we got a grant for $350,000.
We got a grant for 175, right?
Well, that's half a year. You're
Oh,
spanning 2
okay.
years on the.
Oh, good, that's
payout,
good,
okay?
that's good.
The grant's $350,000, supposed to be 50% of what this may cost. If we get by and we can do it for $500,000, the grant's only gonna cover $250,000. $250 out of our pocket.
Yeah.
Okay? I'm really truly hoping that the overall cost for this building doesn't really go much beyond $250,000, period. I mean, think about what's gonna be there.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense that you've got a concrete pad.
Correct.
You've got plumbing.
Yeah.
You may have some showers, and you've got bathrooms and a place for male and females to go change.
We don't need HVAC, we don't need.
You've got an entranceway.
Yeah.
Hey, the blueprint of that building sits right there near the football field. It's the concession stand for the Minerva Park. I'm telling you right now, and I keep telling people, I'm like, if you, I'm not saying go, but I'm saying that's what we want. And, so I talked to Tiffany about this building at some point, but I wasn't involved, so like, I would never, I'm not even hindsight 2020 thing, it's just that, you gotta, what do we need as a community, and 2,000 members. I'm glad to hear that it was 350, because I was like, oh, grand. But, and then this pool improvement fund is something you set up, I was
It
saying.
was created back a couple of years ago. When Jason started talking about this, I knew we needed money to cover the pool.
Sure.
Okay? What I didn't realize was going to come forth from MKSK is this
Yeah.
huge plan. So I was setting money aside that we had in general fund that we could set aside to help out with getting the pool fixed. Long ago, I looked at things. We can issue $2 million in bonds payable from income tax to cover the pool. Okay? We've got enough money there now with the grant that we can pay cash for the bathhouse. And I'll still, depending upon how much it is, we may have a little extra left. So I'll have a little more than $2 million to cover the pool.
So how do you feel about, I'm more fiscally conservative with this type of stuff, and part of the reason is my house is backs up to the pool, so I have a vested interest in it succeeding at least. But the issue is that I always come back to, there's no way we're doing Euro Disney. Well, at least I don't hope not, but I just bring that up because when we say 175 set aside now, obviously we gotta make sure, it's the best interest of the community as a whole. I think it is, but that's my biggest question.
So
This probably is.
I think the best approach is to repair the existing pool
Yeah.
so that you got another 30 years.
Yeah.
Okay? Keep the same footprint. You gotta fix the shallow end so it's a zero entry.
You can do that, Eric.
Okay? The pool's good size.
Can we get a slide, Jeff? We need a
It
slide.
costs more insurance-wise.
I hate you.
I know, but the slide was cool.
You went down the kids'
I'm not
slide?
asking
You
for
went
a
down the
high
kids'
dive.
slide?
Yeah.
Did you?
As a fat little fourth grader, I slid down.
Oh,
the
come
slide.
on, man. Are you pulling a JP on me? You going back history? Come on,
If
Dave.
my parents couldn't afford a camera, so.
Yeah.
But
The
sorry.
pool I went to when I was a kid, we had a 25-foot high slide.
See?
And it went down and you went skimming across the water, and if you're really good at skimming across the water, your feet would hit the wall.
Yeah.
But it was great.
Yeah, you seem like.
There was those of
seems like
us that
good
were
memories.
daring enough to jump off of it,
Yeah,
out into the middle of the pool that was only 7-8 feet deep.
maybe an inflatable slide.
But anyways,
Yeah,
it
sorry.
does cost, it adds to
Anyway,
liability insurance, but.
Sorry.
No, I agree with you. I felt like that perspective. I keep thinking of, can we just cut that slab out, stabilize the ground, and then install and make sure everything else is good? And hey, we
But-
call it a $500,000 fix, and
Yeah.
I'm probably talking 2 million.
I talk to John all the time over there. My son works there, you probably know that. So, anyway, I just think there's opportunity to do things that make it look really nice, and then that's it.
I think the bathhouse
Oh, heck yeah.
and
So
fixing the existing pool. And it could be tear out and rebuild, I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, but keeping the same footprint, if we can make it work for $2 million,
Yeah.
you may have a pool for another 20, 30
Dude,
years.
the concrete looks great, the aluminum skirt around it, whatever the thing is
The
called.
sides are a problem from what I hear.
The sides in general, yeah. But just, I think there's just such opportunity. And my son even came up with some like really easy ideas on making it look nice. So it's not like,
Yeah.
put a new fence around it,
Yes,
new lifeguard chair, stuff like that. Just that ultimately.
that would all happen with the pool being taken care of.
Anyway, and that's just, back to MLR just real quick. So future plans on MLR.
That's where I was headed.
Yeah.
So, River Lake Road's broken down into 4 phases.
Yeah,
Okay, they're all listed there.
yeah,
The biggest, most expensive phase is from North Bay
North Bay, yeah,
to Cleveland Avenue,
gotcha.
okay? And you are gonna lose trees,
Right,
big time. And that road's probably gonna shift north and south, trying to maintain some reasonable front footage on houses. And you've got a sidewalk that's gonna go on one side,
yeah,
okay? Probably north side.
yeah. And that's gonna be our biggest issue with the community, right? Or one of the bigger issues with the
Yes.
community, yeah.
Yes, so The next two phases is from Farview to East Shore and East Shore to North Bay. And I was talking with Mike, while it makes sense to go each phase right next to each other, I talked to him about jumping to East Shore to North Bay, which is in front of this building, the lakes.
Yeah.
And the reason being is the pipe that's underneath the road is 70 years old,
Yeah. That connects the north.
north and south lake. Okay, so here's another piece of of that big project that we can take care of and help deal with the lake some. Okay, so if we bump that project up, do that this phase next, we also deal with the lakes a little bit. Okay, little logic there. That's mine, and then we go back to the in between. Okay, that's what I put in here.
And there's
for now,
only
okay?
4 phases, right?
Yes.
It's phase 6 on that, Minerva Lake Road, phase 6.
Oh,
You're good, I
sorry.
just wanna make sure you knew.
1, 2, 3. I got my letters back.
You're good, no, it's all good,
It's all right.
I just wanna make sure I knew.
Yeah.
Okay, so, cause this is a big question, now, is this, okay, this was engineered already,
No.
okay, that's a good thing, right?
Correct. What is taking place is a master plan to go with Minerva Lake Road, which is going to identify the things that have to take place.
And the master plan is related to the bigger project, right? That's the pathway to get over to Cleveland Avenue,
Yes, I believe.
for CODA or whatever that's called.
I think there's something like that in there. There's a different project for pathways.
Okay, so, and I don't want to waste time on this, but is there an opportunity, I know we want to fix Mineral Lake Road, I think you well defined that, I think well, at least that part makes sense. I assume the rest still needs to be, there's a lot that needs to be done.
Yes. The master plan for Minerva Lake Road will identify the order and what needs to take place. Sidewalks, etc. Okay? Keep in mind that sidewalks become an expense of the general fund.
Right.
You cannot use any kind of road money to put sidewalks in.
I thought residents were responsible for the sidewalks in front of their house.
To maintain them.
Well, I mean, it's,
I'm sorry, I didn't catch what you said.
residents are responsible for sidewalks in front of their house.
Well,
At least
yes,
in
but-
Columbus, I know for a fact, because I have rentals. But, and then I've had to redo them, so.
so initially getting them put in
Oh, yeah, they're
comes
not.
with the project.
Yeah.
But again, general fund is paying for it, not
Oh, I
restricted.
see, you're saying initial, you're not talking about.
Yes. You could turn around and assess that portion of the project as a special assessment. But the way we've looked at projects is not to have an impact financially on the property owners.
Right.
Okay? You can change that.
Yeah. Well, we're already paying those, I mean.
Okay? So the master plan will help,
Yeah.
but I think the phases are out here. The hope is that we would get more OPWC grant loan money.
Yeah,
In this case, more grant than loan, okay?
Right.
And there's money set aside, or to be set aside in the street improvement fund, forthcoming. And we have some additional sources of money available too. We have the permissive motor vehicle license fees with the county. A portion of very old permissive money gets allocated to us every year, about 10 grand.
Yep.
It'll be about $160,000 by the time we tap into this project.
Gotcha.
It was potentially going to be used for the first leg of Minerva Lake, but because we have other funding, I don't have to use it. I can save it for later. The $10 that was added to the license fees
Yes.
a year or so ago,
That was part of that.
that's coming in, and that's going into a second permissive fund.
Yeah.
And those dollars are available again for road improvements. That is not restricted to Minerva Lake Road.
Okay.
Where the money with the county is restricted to Minerva Lake Road. and Minerva Lake Road is on the county map. That is the criteria for being able to utilize those dollars.
Gotcha, yeah.
Okay?
So in general, and we can move on, but when we talk about this project, is there a way to discuss, I know we want to get MLR fixed, right? Whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
And we want the grant money, so, but is there different ways to do it? Like, hear me out. And this is to be yes or no, we don't need to debate it, but like, we want that pathway, whatever that looks like, from Farview now, we want it to Cleveland Avenue. Is that the main purpose of, I'm sorry, not our purpose, because our purpose obviously would be MLR really, right? But is that the main purpose is for them is to get that walkway or?
There is a desire to get that walkway from the bus station up on Cleveland Avenue, through Minerva Park, and out the other side, and connect up beyond.
But to connect to the bike path, right?
Yeah, it's a
I
corporate
believe
drive.
that is the case. Okay?
Well, no, they're building that path is on Green Line, not Green Line Drive. The old railroad path.
Yeah, that's the
Yes.
the Linden Green Line Way, yeah.
Yeah, so then it'll go up to Cooper.
That's different, though. They don't want it to just connect there, they want it to go straight down Corporate Drive to the trailhead,
Why wouldn't
Down.
you?
because they want it that way.
But then they have to cross Western Road.
Correct, yes. They have to engineer a solution.
Yes.
And that's why we have higher sales tax now.
Wow,
Yes.
that's crazy.
Yes.
I
So-
thought it was just to go to that,
There's a master plan to go with the pathways
Yeah.
that is gonna address how that would go through here, that in some way, shape, or form, hopefully is going to be funded with those dollars that is coming from the increase in sales tax
Yeah, yeah.
with CODA.
okay, so the question really had, sorry for
No.
mentioning that, but the question for me was, from Farview this way, is there any other flexibility, any other things we can think of that would allow that path to cut through our neighborhood, but do it in a way that makes more sense? Because MLR, we're putting the onus on the citizens, residents to be okay with it, when obviously it's gonna be a battle with just about everybody.
I don't know how to answer that one until that master plan's done.
Yeah.
Okay, but keep in mind, you can't use street money for it. That
Yeah,
has
but-
to come from that grant money.
Right, but if the grant money allows us to build a path, so this,
Yes.
I just think crazy, so then we go, we're at Farview, now we cut behind Hawthorne with a path, okay, right by the thing, you go through the pool somehow, okay, parking lot, and then you cut up through some green space to try, my thinking is like, we may need to get MLR done anyway.
I don't know where that path is supposed to go, but for some odd reason, I don't think it's going the direction you're thinking.
Oh, no, I know we're cutting down MLR.
And when Valley gets done, there's gonna be a sidewalk put in on the east side. So that gets you off of Minerva Lake Road back into the pool. What connects up from there remains to be seen yet.
Yeah. Anyway, I just thinking ahead, like, what is it that can allow us to have the least impact on the residents? Because here's the other thing, if you could connect any type of walking path, especially a nice, wider, I think asphalt makes more sense, not in front of neighbors, but necessarily, but if there's a right of way that goes to Kerwood, and then if we can get Kerwood over to Jordan, and then, cause there's plenty, see, the difference with those yards is those yards are huge. They're not gonna mind having, I wouldn't think.
So part of what's been discussed is running that walkway
Yeah.
up to North Lake.
Right.
Crossed
Same.
in there.
Yeah, same
So,
idea.
okay.
Hey, see you, Jeff.
Okay,
So anyway, yeah,
that would have a minimal impact on a lot of people.
exactly. And that, I don't know, this is the way I think, because having to talk to a couple residents and then, I'm like, I get it, I get I think progress should happen, so I'm all about progress.
So-
But it's just weird.
That conversation, best, let's see what the master plan has and talk with Mike on it, okay?
And when Linkus comes to us and goes, hey guys, we think it's time to do X, Y, and Z, we go, how about this?
Eric's involved with that to some extent, but I can't say he's on the same page as everybody else.
Meaning,
His thought and where things go is different than what everybody else is thinking, okay?
right, but so it could be a discussion in general.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they can't force us to put something in our neighborhood that we don't want them to do.
Well,
No,
a
but-
lot of people feel like this, the first
So-
part of, first phase though, they feel like, you know, whatever happened in that meeting, cause he keeps on telling me to go to that meeting, Tony, and I'm like,
Your safest thing is, I wasn't on
but
council.
I know, but I
Sorry.
don't wanna have that same, I don't wanna have that same
Right.
excuse on the next couple phases without addressing it, like.
The
I-
big thing is, the master plan's gonna help with that,
So the master plan's coming from,
like,
Our engineer.
oh, I thought the master.
Our
plan
engineer.
was- I thought the master plan was the, outside of us, outside of Minerva Park.
no. There's two master plans in place right now. The pathways and MLR. Okay? So the master plan for MLR is gonna get posted to the website so that everybody becomes aware of what's gonna happen, and down the road, here's what's gonna happen. The exact timing may not be set yet, because the biggest driving factor is money.
Yeah, for sure. But here's the goal. Yeah.
Yes, exactly,
Yeah.
okay?
Cool,
So,
sorry about that, thank you.
I
Pool renovations, we talked about it.
This document has several projects listed on it, okay? And it's a best guesstimate. The numbers will more than likely change, especially the further out we go, the less certain we are as cost.
Yeah.
Okay? You got the pool in here.
Yep.
And the timing on the pool. And the reason you see dollars split between years is because you only have 4 months that we're gonna do part of 1 year and 4 months in another year. Okay? So I'm just kind of, it also helps with trying to get dollars.
Sure, I'm sure.
But overall, you can see what the cost of the project is.
And again, you mentioned something about 2 million straight up.
There's 2 million sitting in the pool improvement fund right now.
Yeah.
Okay?
Jeff, you got it going on, buddy. Every time I turn around, oh yeah, it's in this fund, yeah.
I'm not hiding money, but I'm trying to set money aside to do things.
You sound like me talking to my wife, so it's okay. She's like, I didn't know
So,
we had that.
you know, it may take a while for some things to sink into others as to,
Acorn. What's
oh my
Acorn?
God, somebody was thinking ahead when they did this.
Yeah.
Carl, what's this $10,000 sitting in Acorn?
No, and I think, Jeff, that's a lot of what I think we are trying to do as a whole and wanting to.
And I want to do this, and I don't want to bankrupt the village.
Correct.
So one of the things I don't have the document with me, when I look at budgets constantly, I also look at the updated 5-year projection. And I try to maintain 3 months average expenditures as the carryover balance.
Yes.
So going into next year, we can transfer $1 million so far. We can transfer $1 million out of general fund to $750,000 to the street improvement fund, $250,000 to storm sewer improvements.
That's great.
So the dollars are sitting there, okay?
Yeah.
And I still maintain that balance that I need 5 years out. It's much higher in the early years, but at the end of 5 years, I still have my 3-month carryover.
Yeah.
Okay, if income tax does better than my 2.5%-ish, then we're in business, okay? And we're doing better than that right now.
Correct.
Yeah,
But
you
I just kind of like, is this really gonna keep up? the
You
way
plan
it
for
is?
terrible, and then when great happens, you're
Try to
just-
be conservative on things.
Yes,
So,
I understand.
anyways, I've got the projects listed here.
Yeah, I see it.
So you can see what's going on. And, and unfortunately, rehab of the lakes is getting pushed out, and somewhere along the lines, we gotta come up with $5 million or more. And I can't help but ask the question. The water that feeds into these lakes, a chunk of it comes from Columbus.
Right.
Why is Columbus not part of this plan?
Somebody mentioned,
It's not like we can just shut the water off and leave it out there for them to deal with.
Yeah.
I wish we could.
but is that true? I mean, that's probably true for any community though, right? I guess you could look at other communities and see how they handle that type of stuff, because you figure you got, I would say Grove City, I'm making it
Yeah.
up, but let's say Grove City, so, I mean, there has to be some type of precedent. Has to be, there's no way. And the precedent probably is just the right of way, it's just,
I guess, and I can't, I don't have an answer for you, but it would seem logical that there would be some master plan for stormwater for Franklin County and vicinity, okay?
there is a, and I'll get the name of it, because somebody mentioned to me also, there's a waterway committee or something that exists in Central Ohio.
Yeah.
That would be would actually, they brought up to be interested in what we were talking about, the erosion and stuff like that. Is that you? Look at you, man. But yeah, no, appreciate this, this is good. $2 million is set aside for the pool.
And you
Let's
will,
work with that.
you'll see that again when we start into the budget for next year in September-ish, okay? So, one of your other questions you had involves supplemental appropriations that related to,
Yeah, I was curious on that, more than anything.
while we knew the project was somewhere between $1 million, $1.4 million.
Right.
What we didn't know is what was the cost of the pieces parts, which makes it very hard for me to do any kind of appropriation up front.
Okay.
Okay, or ahead of time. So in this case, once the bids came in and we got to see the cost of the parts in here, and we could split them up, that's how I was able to arrive at the dollar amounts up here for Middle Lake Road. Okay? Now, sometimes, yes, I can do it earlier, sometimes I can't. Okay? But when it comes to these big projects, it's not that the project is a surprise, it's not. Because we've gone through the bid process, awarding the contract, getting the budget set.
Yeah.
We're setting on the money, it's just got to be appropriated at the time.
Yeah.
And waiting to see what's going on. You know,
And from like a resident opportunity for comment, I'm just trying to say the quiet part out loud of like, there's multiple pieces where we've approved segments of this, whether it be the bid or whether it be, and now we're approving the money. It's kind of a check and balance along the way. There's like 4 or 5 instances where people
somewhere
can,
along the lines, by the time that bid document goes out,
yeah,
residents should be done with providing comment.
yeah.
Because that bid document's going to put everything in concrete.
Because,
No pun
yeah,
intended.
if we waited to make sure everyone had a
Yes.
voice and knocked on their door and asked them for their 30-minute
So,
presentation.
again, these master plans will certainly help a great deal with this,
Yeah,
When are we gonna get the master plan then?
probably in the fall.
Okay.
Okay, I will push Mike for something on that to go with working with the budget in the fall too.
Gotcha.
Okay, so, one more quick thing and I'll get back to your other topics, okay?
Oh, you,
I gave you my spreadsheet, lovely spreadsheet, on income tax. Okay? So you can see what's gone on over the years. Income tax comes in, we get the initial advance the first of the month, and around the 15th of the month, we get the final. So that's why you see this split 2 ways.
Yeah.
Okay? Right now, we're on target for just over $2.4 million for this year.
yeah.
Okay? If you look at the far right column of the second sheet, we're running about 6% up over prior year.
That's good.
Okay?
It
So
looks like there's been healthy increases too every month. or
it's going to
years.
fluctuate depending upon how things come in. Okay? When you think about it, income tax returns are due April 15th.
Yeah.
So the late April, sorry, the May settlement and June settlement would start to reflect some of those returns that came in. Okay? Otherwise, mostly it's going to be quarterly or your withholding payments. Westerville City Schools are our biggest taxpayer right now. So that's a chunk that comes in every month. Surprisingly, the amount of money that comes from individuals in here is quite large,
okay.
okay?
Not as large as Westerville City.
Stop it. Will you stop?
Well,
So,
schools. I mean,
surprisingly,
Oh, I thought
No, not
I thought you were
got-
here to Westerville. I was like,
you have withholding taxes that come in, which is wherever somebody works, they have to withhold.
Yeah,
So that's part of what comes in withholdings. Then the second largest piece of this is the individual payments. And the third is the businesses. Businesses is small,
Yeah,
okay?
Right.
So it's about on the rest of it, it's about a 60-40 split.
okay.
60% withholdings, 40% individual estimated payments. Okay?
Is that how you assume that it's Westerville City Schools?
No, I have a report that I get from Rita that tells me who the large taxpayers are.
Okay. I'm probably way up there. I'm just kidding.
Yes, number 3.
Thank you. Thank you.
But
Okay.
anyways,
Yeah, no, because I know mine gets withheld because I work from home.
yes.
So-
Well, the good side there is, and I'm not sure how they've really got some of this structured. If you worked in Columbus and live here, you're gonna pay Columbus, and then you're gonna turn around and pay
Yes.
Minerva Park.
Correct.
You could be paying 4.5% local
Yes.
tax.
Thank you.
You're working at home, hopefully you're only paying 2%.
Correct. Yes, I worked in Grandview Heights,
Yeah.
hybrid for a while, both Rita municipalities,
Yeah.
and they were collected 2.5, and you guys, we were supposed to be
So,
collecting 2, and I got.
if I wanted to, have an agenda reciprocal from City of Columbus, probably wouldn't work for us, right?
Nope. I can't.
You could definitely try it.
The village cannot afford to give a credit
I already know.
because you don't have the businesses. Okay?
Well, the reason I went to 2% was to support
All right,
police.
I voted for
And-
it. I voted for it.
Yeah, keep in mind, somewhere down the lines, don't be surprised if your income tax has to go up.
Well, I mean, the state income tax is going down, so that's good.
Yeah. Yeah. So, anyway, I just wanted to share that with you so you can see what's going on. I do look at this every month when that stuff comes in.
Some of these you can just generalize and stuff.
Other expenditures.
Yeah.
Council appropriates at one level, at a much higher level than what management maintains. Obviously, you've seen the reports and the number of account codes that exist in there, okay? So there's what is referred to as major object codes. If you look at the third dimension of the account code, which you don't have anything there for, that is the object code. So statute requires at a minimum within each fund, department, activity, division, the amount for personal services. Everything else becomes other. Well, here, other represents employee benefits, contractual services, and materials and supplies.
Benefits.
Yes. Okay?
I said that to myself.
The rest of it
That's probably the bulk of that.
Police department, yes.
Well,
Yeah, our benefits are not exactly cheap, but they're not bad, okay? We also appropriate as a separate debt service, capital outlay, and transfers. Okay, so again, other expenditures includes those 3. Reason there's a difference between what council appropriates and what you see on the reports is I have the flexibility to allocate and reallocate those dollars within what council gives me.
okay.
Okay? So if I need some additional funds for materials and supplies, I can look at what's in there for contractual services and reallocate without going to council. Okay? Within the salaries, I can allocate between full-time, part-time, or
Seasonal.
other overtime, et cetera, without going back to council. But I can't exceed what council gives me for salaries in the police department or salaries in the mayor's office, et cetera. Okay? If council was to appropriate it in greater detail, you would see supplemental appropriations every meeting. Because if I can't reallocate without going back to council,
Yeah.
you guys are gonna be doing it and you're gonna be tired of seeing supplementals
Is that a statute or is that by design?
by design.
Okay.
That's why I said, council has personal services, other, debt service, capital outlay, transfers, okay?
I mean, it makes sense. I don't want to sign off on every single
No, you don't.
credit card transaction that comes through.
So that explains the other, okay?
Yep.
In what I gave you here, if you can get to it, there is a chart of accounts in there,
Oh, good, okay.
so you can see what's going on.
Is that the only file on there?
No, you got all the bond documents, and you have the draft financial reports for
Do you want
June.
me to download and give it back to you?
No. But you can give it back to me later, okay? Unfortunately, Tommy can't get it, because he doesn't have the right drive.
I don't. I have high technology. I'm still underwater with this council investment. I bought this computer specifically for that.
No, you didn't, did you?
I really did.
Oh, it's
Or
so
was it
nice.
an excuse to buy it?
Let's do it.
You,
Sorry, Jeff.
We can go on forever. Go ahead.
I can't say that here.
Yes, sir. I understand.
Hopefully, it's a good business deduction.
It's not a business. It's
Anyways,
just volunteer work.
you asked about the
Unless JP has his
website.
way.
You asked about the website.
Yeah. I was out there.
Monthly report is under Departments, Finance, yearly financial reports.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So what council gets email from me is also posted to the website too.
I just want to make sure, I felt like you felt like it was a good resource for anyone.
The annual report should always be out there. There should be several of them at this point.
Yeah.
Okay. The monthly reports disappear after the annual report for that year goes out there.
Okay.
Okay? I answered that with the mayor's court legislation, all of detail. Okay.
I don't want to talk about it right now.
Nope.
But I did, it was just,
Yeah.
there was a lot of, it just.
I think there was something for Mayor's Court, and I was like, oh, maybe that's for the handling of the TIF challenges for Mayor's Court. Just now? No?
Mayor's court is the citations that our guys issue.
Okay,
People have, if they're unable to pay waiver, they have to come into court.
okay.
Okay? Sometimes they come into court to challenge it and try to get a reduced sentence so that there's no points on their license.
But there were some appropriations
Yeah.
recently on the Mayor's Court
Yeah.
from recent.
It just, I mean, you're talking a good amount of appropriation in general for mayor's courts.
Sure.
I would just curious.
Mayor's court runs us about $100K a year.
Let's see.
Yeah, 110. So what is that, I guess?
So
without
within
asking?
that, you've got 50% of Leah's wages.
Right, so that's.
Because she's the clerk for
answers.
mayor's
Yeah,
court,
that
okay?
answers a lot.
You have a $27,000 contract with JJ, who represents the village at municipal court for all the cases that end up down there.
Gotcha, okay.
There are certain cases that have to go to Columbus that we can't do. So he's our prosecutor down there. Okay? You have a magistrate that it's $400 a pop. So we have court twice a month. 96, there's another $10,000. Okay.
You answered it. I just, not knowing the business, right?
Sure.
Does that make sense? Yeah.
Sure.
It just seemed, I was like, wow, that's
Yeah.
crazy. that-
So I think the chart of accounts may help you out a little bit in understanding some things.
Gotcha, gotcha.
Okay.
The only other one, if you don't mind,
Go ahead.
we can end, is the idea, like, what can we do to kind of help you? Because I think, one thing I asked, and this had more to do with Eric than you, really, is that we try to address questions. This has to do with the residents.
Yeah.
That's a whole other topic in general, but it's still the same theme
So-
where, how do we, and this isn't uncommon, I started studying this stuff because I was like, well, it seems odd that we're always upset about Phantom fireworks, or we're always upset about this, and you can't control the residents, all their responses, of course, but I'm the type of person, because I'm at the pool all the time, and Tommy's out, and he's in the neighborhood talking people, kissing babies, and, in general, what can we do to make sure we address as a team? I don't care about anything but just making sure we have a united front, and so on the fiscal side of things, financial side of things, what can we do to help?
One thing is, this meeting is very helpful for me to sit with council or committee, and we can talk about things so that you've got a good understanding of
Right.
what's going on.
Right.
That can be addressed in a council meeting when things pop up, okay? Obviously, there's just gonna be times where you're better off to defer it to me.
Right.
okay?
Right.
If there is an interest in, or I don't know what council wants to hear monthly on a report.
That's fair, yeah.
Okay? The reports I can give you was decided back a few years ago.
I mean,
After somebody, the committee then looked at the existing reports and they said, no, we don't like this one, we like this one and this one, okay?
Yeah.
So that's what gets put together.
Right.
And that's what I set out. If there's other information that I should convey in the council meeting rather than
Well,
the
Jeff, is
committee
it-
meeting before.
Is it fair to say that RFP, I don't know what was communicated, how it was communicated, I mean, I'm a newbie still, right?
Yeah.
But at the same token, I know Jason automatically pinged up, because I think he was like, well, we hadn't really talked about it. And so that's where, and maybe we had, I don't know, but I think that's where it's kind of like, okay, so what can we do to better help that? Now, knowing the projects helps me
Yeah.
answer, hopefully ask questions, but.
So, again, if there are certain things you want to hear, such as property tax settlement's going to be finalized late August, early September. I can tell you how that goes, which I will. I can constantly tell you every month where we stand with income tax.
Yeah.
How's the collections going, okay? I can't give you more like detail into it.
Sure,
But I can tell you in
But
totals.
you know this, you give us something, if I see something like this, I'm like, oh, okay, oh, I see the percentage increase. I mean, Tommy can read it, I'm sure, pretty well, so I don't really have a problem with that, I don't know if everybody else can, but, you know.
Yeah. Well, sometimes there's a lot of blank looks.
Right.
So, yeah, knowing what council would like to hear would be very helpful. And I would much prefer to do it in a live council meeting than so much at the committee meeting. Now, if that means that the committee meeting, I tell you certain things and I repeat it again at the council meeting, that's fine. Okay? But it seems to me right now, if everything's getting hit real quick in the committee meeting, because there isn't time for everything, or there's other things more important, and then it doesn't get addressed at a council meeting either.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Gotcha.
And I don't know what residents are really looking at, to be honest.
No, and it's not just about residents, but it's about council too, and I think I'm kind of picking up maybe what you're putting down of like, the committee as a whole is, possibly it can be great for reducing the amount of time, but there are instances, just like the engineer, where a quarterly sit-down could be beneficial, so we can check and
Yeah.
touch base on stuff like this, or long-term projects, or what.
You know, the monthly work session at the
Yeah.
beginning of the month is good place for some of this stuff too.
Yeah,
But residents don't have a chance to hear what goes on in the committee meeting so much, or the committee as a whole, or the work session.
sure.
So repeating some things makes sense to me, but I don't know if that's what council really wants to hear. Okay? And I try to restrict it to where I'm only, a few minutes,
Yeah.
No, yeah,
okay?
I think it's great, because I think when you do talk up in council meetings, and then when it goes to the regular meeting, and I guess it's my
Yeah.
turn to speak, I can kind of basically reiterate what we talked about it as a whole.
Yeah.
And I think that helps me commit it to memory, and also feel comfortable.
Yeah.
But same thing
So-
for you, Tony.
That can be helpful there,
But
okay?
you're the boss, Tony.
Because I really, there are times I just don't know what council would want to hear.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at things and thinking, okay, I think this and this and this is important.
I'll do my best to ping you in advance when you send the reports out. If there's anything that I see that needs a question, and then that it helps pertain to
Yeah.
everything else, maybe links things together, I'll try to do that for you. And then I'll do that in advance, so that way we can discuss it. in whatever.
One of the things that should be getting some attention, there's a proposal to eliminate property taxes in the state of Ohio,
Right.
which is ludicrous. Your schools are financed by school property tax. You have debt payable from property taxes. What happens to pilot payments? Don't know. There's also a move to eliminate inside millage. You take away our inside millage, that's about $60,000 a year.
Inside millage, talk to me.
Okay. When you deal with property taxes, you have inside and outside millage. Outside millage is all voted property tax levies.
Okay,
Inside millage is what is levied by state statute.
okay,
That 10 mills gets divided up between the overlapping governments.
Gotcha.
So if you think about the overlapping governments, you've got Westerville City Schools, you've got county departments, you've got the county as a whole, and you've got the village. Those are all stacked on top of each other, and the inside millage should tally up to 10 mils.
Gotcha.
That is not subject to reduction factors at all. So, we get 1 mil of inside millage, roughly $60,000, okay?
Gotcha.
The rest of it is voted property tax levies. That's why we've got the renewals.
And that's what you hear the most, obviously, yeah.
Yes. Keep in mind too, voted property tax levies is essentially fixed income. Because they are intended to generate the same dollars every year based upon the year in which it was originally approved. As inflation increases values, your reduction factors lower the millage to an effective rate. Right now, our levies are less than half of what the full tax rate is. So 3.2 mil levies is, the effective rate is 1.7 mils.
Yeah,
Roughly.
the property tax thing is fun. Well, did you see Westerville City Schools' basic response to that was
No, I didn't.
there likely will be a 0.75% income
Yes.
tax?
So if you take away property taxes as a whole from the village, you are taking away $500,000, and that equates to 4 police officers.
Yes.
That is 40% of the department.
Well, I mean, we would obviously have to raise income taxes in order,
Yes.
to support that.
Yes.
Which is what Westerville seems to be approaching it. Well, if this is a
Well,
threat, then we have to choose another
You're
avenue.
hearing more from the schools than you are the city,
Yeah.
okay? I don't, I think the city still relies upon its fire protection as property tax levies because of Blendon Township. They provide service to Blendon, okay? At least when I was up there working as their assistant many years ago.
Yeah.
Fire department was financed by levy. Everything else was financed by income tax. I think it's still that way, but I can't swear to it.
Sure.
Okay, so
Yeah. Well, thank you for
One
your
last
time.
thing.
Oh, gotcha.
you got the RFP in your hands,
Nice.
okay?
Yeah, I think I saw that.
Yes. And I responded to Jason. I think he had another question about, did Jesse review it, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Of course Jesse reviewed it. I factored in what he suggested. I've gone out, I've looked at Ohio Administrative Code that addresses RFPs, and it addresses it more for the state agencies,
Okay.
okay? And I factored in some things that I found with it. I got a hold of an RFP from Bexley.
Nice.
I saw a few things there. Aha!
Well, they just redid it the last couple of years.
And I stuck it in. So this is intended, right now, for all practical purposes, I consider this a final document.
Gotcha.
Now, again, if somebody else comes up with something else, whether it should be there or not, good question.
You guys could go through some iterations with Justin and stuff like that. Maybe I do. I mean, that's normal.
So what I can tell you is, when you put out an RFP, especially in writing,
Right.
it is essentially like putting out a bid document.
Right.
It's just a little less formal, okay?
Right.
So
It's less formal because,
you can
Well-
pick and choose who you send it to.
okay.
Okay, so when the RFPs come back in, they essentially will be opened all at once, just like a bid document. Okay, and we'll look, they get evaluated. And the evaluation criteria is in here. That was one of the things I added.
Gotcha.
Okay, you do not have the ability to converse with a responder other than to clarify questions on what was asked for. Or what they're proposing, if you need to clarify. You don't get to talk about the dollar amount.
Yeah.
You don't get to negotiate with any one of them, trying to get them down.
Can we put a cap on how much they are allowed to bid? Or
No.
what we won't exceed?
No, that's where you get to accept or reject,
Okay.
okay? Now, that said, if this came in under $75,000, technically, the contract can be awarded by the mayor,
Yeah.
subject to appropriation, which don't exist. So we would have to come back to council for the appropriation. That's your point, a point where you can say yes, no.
Yeah.
As a courtesy, we would want council to see, here's the responders
Yeah.
and how much they were.
Yeah.
And we, based upon the criteria, chose this one as the lowest best.
Sending out an RFP costs us nothing.
I have email addresses of a few that are to get this.
Yeah.
Haven't got it yet, because there's rumblings about this thing.
My brain hears request for proposal. I'm like, when did we approve money to do a project?
Well, here's the thing about this.
Yeah.
You will get a proposal for design
Yeah.
and leading up through the bid document and putting the bids out. That's what this will lead to, the authorization.
Yeah.
I think everybody's on board with something going on with the pool.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's the extent of it, okay?
Correct. I
This,
agree.
as you can tell, 1,500 to 2,000 square feet, we don't know what, I don't know what the ideal space is that's needed. The event building that is $750,000 to $1 million NKSC put out is not part of the grant. The grant will not pay for it. If I have to spend $1 million for an event building, I don't have $2 million to fix the pool.
Yeah, I mean, there's definite scope challenges of
And
what,
the last thing I'm gonna say about the pool,
yeah,
I've said it before,
water's wet.
MKSK has somewhere around $6.5 million project. That's what they put together.
Yeah.
Our debt limit is somewhere around $6.5 million.
Yeah.
In order to issue debt, the tax comes into play with that debt limit. You have to have a voter bond issue. If you put a vote out to the voters for a bond issue for $6.5 million for
The pool.
and they say no, do you have enough guts to turn around and issue $2 million in debt that they didn't have to vote on to fix the pool?
Right.
I've said it before. I don't think you can do it. If you put it out to a vote and it comes back no,
Which it would.
close the pool down.
Which
You're
it
done.
would.
Yeah.
Which it would come back, no.
Okay?
Sorry.
I hate saying
shouldn't
that
say that.
because, I truly hate saying that because I think that neighborhood pool is a good attraction for this village. It's a great place for their kids to go.
Yeah.
And you know they're supposed to be at the pool, it should be safe, having fun, come back home. Okay? I had it that way when I grew up. It wasn't a neighborhood pool, I rode my
Well,
bike.
but you say it best because that's why you're setting aside money too, so,
Yes.
I mean, you don't have to.
Yes.
I mean, I get that, but, thanks for your time, Jeff, we're gonna end the meeting now. Thank you again, and, we'll see minutes, brief minutes sent out via email based on everything you said. Thanks again.
Good.